Cavecast, the uncensored show for nerds of all kinds.
I wanted to stay away from obvious, like, your heroes. Well, obviously I would choose Spider-Man, but that's not what I would go for. I think Spider-Man has, in my opinion, probably the best like moral compass when it comes to being a hero. Like, he's the one that will make, the hard decisions and, things like, who do I save, the people I love or the whole city? It's like he's usually put into those situations. And I've heard somebody say this before, and I don't know if it's true, but they basically said that Peter Parker has never lost a fight in canon, but he did lose a lot. Like that idea that, he always took the bad guy down or something. And I heard somebody say that it was only once that he lost a fight because I think it was Doc Ock took over his body and couldn't do everything he did or understood like how everything went, and then he got taken out. So on a technicality, Spider-Man lost. Right.
I see what you're saying.
But
So tonight, what is it that you said we're going to go through a couple questions, things like that, and then kind of just take it from there. But so this first question that you had read to me was very interesting. What was it again?
So tonight we are starting off the episode with questions. Usually we've been ending doing a half-hour break. That was to kind of take care of some technical things and to see if we could fix some things in post as far as maybe some syncing issues and such, which it really doesn't matter. So we decided to sprinkle in the questions this time and try something different. And you guys, again, had so many good questions, and it was so wild to just see how intellectual that our following is and the things that they do want to know, and like they have a genuine curiosity there, and it's really, really awesome. It made me mad I didn't think of some of these questions, so there were a lot of them. I've chosen 5. We may not even get through all these 5, but the first one for sure, which I'm trying not to repeat people as much as possible, but
I get it.
Cure is back for this one, and they say or they ask rather, what traits make a person a hero to you guys? And I think that when it comes to somebody being a hero, it's, it's stereotypical, but, the firefighters during 9/11, the guys that ran into that building that was falling down to save people, the parent that, works so much during the week, but still makes it to every soccer practice. Like, I think that it's really at the core of both of those examples, and I could rattle off many more, but selflessness. To me, I think that, there's a lot of people that can do a lot of heroic things, or they can, be an inspiration for you, or they can be, these different things. But at the end of the day, if they're doing it for personal gain, it kind of loses, the whole impact of what they're doing, that it's like they did it because they want something instead of they did it because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah. So that's where I would stand. But as far as what you think?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty much the same thing. It's that kind of like humbleness where they don't ask or want to be the hero. They just do the thing, whatever it is, or things that they do and make them a hero. It's like you said, like the firefighters, things like that, run towards the fire while the people are running away from it.
Yeah.
Shit like that. But like, that's just their job. That's just their nature. That's just what they do. Ironically enough, the few people that I did pick tonight, it's a very weird spread.
I'm very curious to see who you picked out, because I've got 2 or 3 depending on time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the thing is that the more I thought about it, it was because of the fact of like how they are as a person, and not because, like you said, that they're not doing it for like gain of any sorts.
Yeah.
So that was weird that we both kind of had the same concept on like what makes a hero, because they don't ask for it. They don't mean to be, essentially.
Right.
It's just, that's what happens.
Well, I even told Eric before we got started, I said, look, they don't have to be people that these can be fictional characters. If you have a good, compelling reason as to why these fictional characters, are your heroes, or they, even as a kid, if you looked up to them or things like that, that's really what I'm looking for in this.
I have 2 real people and 1 like quote fictional character.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so you kind of changed it up. See, I feel like I should have thought of a fictional one, but
well, I left 1 out because I figured 1 was kind of obvious that we would both put on there. So
is it Batman?
No, no, but no. So, yeah. So I was gonna say, why don't we keep this going here with this whole, what makes a hero? Because that's I don't want to say a loaded question, but that's a very good question, because it's like, well, why do you follow these people or look up to these people or whatever it is? Mm-hmm. And I think if you have too many heroes that have an agenda, that's bad.
Yeah.
Not to say that some don't, but I think that, when it comes down to it, because that just kind of like, I don't want to say shows who you are as a person, mm-hmm. but the fact that, you don't want to be, you're not looking to be a hero yourself. You're just like, what do these people do? Why are they like this? Mm-hmm. I think maybe that's where I stand with it. I don't ever think that I wanted to be a hero in my life, but I want to follow footsteps because they're doing something good for the community or for their family or for whatever it is. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to be like that? So okay. Almost like a better man, if you will.
Well, let me ask you, who's your first one?
So my first one is, you did have to put me on the spot here. I didn't have it up here, but there it is. Robin Williams.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Going the celebrity route. Okay.
And that, I think the reason being, again, that whole like selflessness, whatever, is that, one of his things was, when he was on set, that he wanted to hire it was 30 or 60 homeless people to work on the sets and give them food and pay them and then house them. Like, who else does that? He's also the guy that makes sure everybody in the room is happy and feels good, even though he's probably the most depressed. He did it because he didn't want other people to feel like that. And
he knew exactly what it felt like.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think I've gravitated towards him a lot over the years, just because of things that I've seen maybe in interviews or watched his movies or just kind of read stories about him or whatever. But I think he was, if you could aspire to be like anybody, it would be Robin Williams. I feel like he was just a very humble human being. He might have been coked up for a while, but man, he still did the right thing.
Well, I think that when it comes to Robin is that not that I know him on a first name basis or anything, but that's kind of how I think of him. It's just like, are we watching a Robin movie tonight or Robin Williams or whatever? Like, we're going to do an entire podcast on The Birdcage, so, that's, I'm not going to get into that movie tonight, but I think of, obviously he has his comedic films, but when I think of Robin Williams, what comes to my mind is Patch Adams,
sure.
Even like Insomnia and like all these other like great movies that he did that, he 100% could light up a room and, just be the main center of attention that is going to make you laugh until you probably piss yourself. Mm-hmm. But having the dynamic range of doing the very dramatic and crying scenes that he's done and the impactful things like, the big court scene at the end of Patch Adams when he's, compelling everybody that's in the medical field, as Patch did. And it's like, it's nuts to see that he was able to have those two sides of that coin. Because when you watch that in live on Broadway, they are two very different things. Yeah. And I think that live on Broadway it's got to be in my top 5 just best live stand-up things ever.
100%. Yeah. Brad and I have probably watched that 139 times in a row. Like, it was that and Bad Boys 2. Yeah. But no, the whole Robin Williams thing is, you're right, is he did have both sides. He was good at what he did. But the fact is that, like, in my opinion, he didn't do it for the fame, the fortune. He didn't do it for he liked to make people laugh and feel good. He just so happened to get paid a lot of money for it. You know what I mean? Like, that was just kind of like the thing that went with it. But he just, I don't know. There was just always something about him that he seemed like such a giver, and he was always smiling and happy and like, all of these things. Like, it was like, he didn't fit in almost. Like, he was kind of like the weird outcast because he always was so happy. He was kind of like in that category, like Jim Carrey and things like that, where they were just, well, how the fuck are you just always, but yeah. Cocaine, like I said, cocaine does probably help a little bit, but no.
Yeah, well, I think that even his newer stand-up, which I always get it mixed up, but is it Words of Mass Destruction or Weapons of Mass Destruction? It's one of the two.
I think it's Words.
Okay. Because even then you can tell that it's a very different Robin. You know that, you know, he is sober. He's older now. Like, he's had his heart transplant, like all that stuff. You know, he's gone through life. And to see that probably even in some of his worst moments, you know, even like, you know, we've heard, you know, the actor that worked with him on Mrs. Doubtfire talking about going into, you know, his trailer and seeing him just shaking and, you know, just being in that state. Like, it's wild to me that even through all of that, as he got older and until what did occur, but he still just brought it. He was still working. He was still doing everything. He wanted to light up a room. And I would 100% agree. I'm kind of mad. I didn't choose people I didn't know, but for celebrity stuff, dude, that's a really, really good one. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. That's wow.
All right. So what about you? Swear to God, if you say Batman.
No, I don't know him. My first one is it was a toss up between Papa and Uncle Rex.
Okay.
I landed on Uncle Rex because I think that in a median measurement of things, I think that I have spent more time with him in car rides and things like that. And to give people some background, and anybody that's paid attention, especially on lives, is that Mom's best friend, Aunt Heidi, who is not, we are not related by blood, but she is our aunt, 100%. Uncle Rex is Aunt Heidi's brother. And I remember being very, very young, and it's one of my earliest like coherent memories was sitting in the kitchen eating dinner and Mom going, all right, honey, you know, Uncle Rex is going to be here. So get your shoes on, do your thing. And of course, you know, it was around my birthday because that's what Uncle Rex did, was that he didn't have children of his own, still to this day does not, but he has nieces and nephews, and he spoiled the hell out of us.
Yeah.
More than like
he did.
I thought that everybody had an Uncle Rex.
Right.
Because it was so normal to us. And we've talked about it in the kitchen many times, but you know, he's such a just selfless person. And what really shook me about him, because I didn't understand what Uncle Rex did for a living.
Oh, really?
When I was young. Okay. I think he is now since retired, correct? Or does he still work?
He's retired, but you know Uncle Rex, he still like fills in for people all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
He, God, I think Mom was the one that told me, she said that him working as a 911 dispatcher, that he was one of the few people, if not the main person, that they said they loved it when he worked because he spoke so clearly. Directly. And I don't think that he was ever like 100% perfect, but he rarely made mistakes. Like, Rex is very fact driven.
Oh, dude.
And just knows exactly what he is talking about.
Sharp as a tack, dude.
I remember being a kid and thinking to myself, this is the smartest man I've ever met.
Oh, I've thought that many times when
it's not just me.
No.
Okay, good.
I used to think that too. I was like, he knows everything. And this was before Google and fucking internet. I'm like, how does he know that? He just reads and watches a lot of the History Channel, essentially. But no, it's not just you.
Man, it's not only did he take us out for our birthdays, and, you know, when we were kids, he would take us to Toys R Us, or he would, you know, like we could pick out one or two things, or maybe one big thing, you know, just depending. And the other thing I loved about him, from being the perspective of being younger, was that we went on so many cool field trips. We got to see museums that, you know, not only were like, oh, here's all the planes and things that you can like get inside and see all the gears. Here's
he took you there too?
The McKinley Museum, where you go into the shadow room where the light flashes and, you know, your shadow's on the wall, and it's just, you never knew what was going to happen. And it was like 2 or 3 times a year, Uncle Rex would be like, hey, we're going to go take a 5-hour drive. We're going to go to this, you know, go to Southern Ohio or wherever it is, and go to this really awesome place. And I remember a few times being on the way and being like, this is going to be dumb. like, because it would be like some history thing or like whatever.
Sure.
And we would get there and immediately I would get sucked in.
Right.
And it was crazy. I never understood how lucky we really were or how blessed that we were with that, because it's just, like, what other uncle is going to, that's not even related to you is going to take you to some of the coolest museums, some of the coolest places. He always took us to the fair. He always whenever we would go down and hang out with Mamaw and Papaw when they were still around, like, it's, Uncle Rex was always a part of that. Like, there was never a time that, anybody was ever secluded, even Uncle Ryan and like all that, like when he was living at the house. Like, it's just, they were such a cool family to grow up with. And Rex was somebody that, again, I just got to spend a lot of time with, and he has the utmost respect for me for the fact that he didn't have to and he wanted to.
Oh, for sure.
Just, there is no ounce of selfishness in him. There is no ounce of I'm better than you. There's no ounce of he never made you feel small.
No,
it was just, it was crazy. And I remember, because Rex is very, very tall. I remember like the moment that I realized when I was old enough, when he was like, do you want to get on my shoulders? And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's when my fear of heights was kind of starting. And I got up there and kind of freaked out. And he was like, well, Kyle, hold on now. He's like, so then he put me down. He's like, look, if you don't want to be up there, it's okay. Like, do you want to see above the crowd? Like, he didn't even think twice. Like, oh, hop up on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, and just, that's the type of person that he is. And he has since hung out with us. He's come over for like, for barbecues or whatever. Yeah. And he's still the same guy.
Exactly.
For a fun fact for anybody that doesn't know, on Riker Road, the Elvira cutout is actually a gift from him, because he even said, Papa would want you to have this. And it's just awesome,
dude. And she's the thing that will probably like never change out of the room.
No, not at all.
And unless there's just like something that we got to do for a video here and there. But that'll be the one that lives in there forever.
But I mean, honestly, I could talk about Uncle Rex all night, but that was
a good one.
He genuinely is he's somebody that I'm honored and flattered that I've even gotten to just experience life in general with him. And it's just because he is such a unique soul, and just is some of the coolest things he's said to me. Like whenever we've been like driving, and like I couldn't think of anything now off the top of my head, but like I've laughed the hardest. Like whenever I was a kid, like sitting in the car, he would say things to me like, "Oh, this is what happened." What was it? From the Breakfast Club with the song they whistle. He's like, well, no, actually, it's Colonel Sanders has got no balls. Colonel. So like, it's sometimes I think about those things and they just make me laugh.
Right.
And I would say that's kind of my soft pickup into either 2 or 3. So that's my first one.
Well,
so,
do we have any more questions?
That's actually a good question about questions. So, Python wants to know, how did your parents and teachers shape your view on heroes growing up?
Ooh.
I don't really know if I have a direct answer to this question, but I think that when it comes to parents, I think mom was the one that kind of shaped it for me, of what I would look for in a hero. And funnily enough, it actually came from, there's many instances, but the one was actually from Jurassic Park, when the T-Rex gets out of the enclosure and Malcolm is doing his thing trying to get, the T-Rex's attention, and Jeff Goldblum gets out and lights it and goes, hey, over here.
Oh, yeah. That's
and
right.
He's yelling, no, freeze, stop it. And he just screams, get the kids. Because he's like, I've got kids. I know exactly what this is. He's like, you need to protect, like, this is the only way to protect them. I have to distract this thing. That's a moment that never hit me until I was sitting with mom, and she's like, do you realize what Jeff Goldblum's character just did there? And it's like, wow, like, it's like, I like mom and Aunt Heidi were always the two people that always like would say those things. Like, no, like, look at him, look what's happening right now. Like, it's just, I think that's the kind of stuff that I would say maybe shaped me. Because we did grow up with, growing up in church. So the whole idea of Jesus and everything, I think that's a given in that aspect. But, but I think that was stuff that I think about, like entertainment and the stuff that, like has stuck with me even in spite of everything. That's what I would say I've learned. That's how it's kind of shaped me from parents or teachers or whichever.
I think I'm on the same boat with you. Like, I don't really know how to answer that in the fact of, other than I think, mom was one as well, where it's like, they kind of, or she kind of, made it known to not like idolize people.
Right.
Like it's okay to like really like somebody, or, but it's like the fact of like kind of almost like where people just get like a cult following, or, worship somebody, but
right. It can get creepy quick.
Yeah. Where she's, she kind of gave that like boundary of like, no, you can be like, there's a difference between being a fan and a groupie, or whatever it might be. So,
right.
But no, I think that's really the way I would put it, is that she just, she kind of taught that way of like, you don't idolize somebody like that. It's okay to be like kind of obsessed with them a little bit at first, but like, just let it go.
Yeah, right.
So yeah.
Say, let it exist for a little bit.
Yeah,
have your have your fangirl moment, and then move on, and,
exactly.
and remember that you still have to go to work tomorrow.
Exactly. Exactly.
So okay, moving forward.
Okay,
who's your second one?
So it's Uncle Phil.
Uncle Phil, hell yeah. Okay.
And the reason being is just because, not because he was rich, but the fact that he provided for his family, he worked hard, he built up to that and got them into the situation that they were in as far as school and neighborhood and all this stuff. But then it was also the fact of two other things where he stepped up and was Will's dad. He took the role and didn't take it lightly, and then the fact of he was on the right side of, like, I guess you could say, like, the law, if you will. And he never let anything slip, but he never was overbearing. Yeah. I think that was the coolest thing, where I think maybe that's where I get a little bit of that tough but fair, or strict but fair.
Yeah.
And it's because he let things slide. But he also was like, all right, okay. But Uncle Phil was he was everybody's dad that didn't have the dad that wanted that dad.
Yes.
What I mean? So
yeah,
it's just one of those, like, I think because I watched it so much, and then I kind of re-see clips and things like that. It was just the fact of he was very selfless. He did, he had a lot of money, but he didn't let that make him. No. And he wanted to make sure his family was taken care of. So what, they got to go skiing in the Alps or whatever it is, and like shit like that. But it didn't matter. He still made sure that with the exception of not Ashley.
God.
Why am I? Yeah. But anyways, she was a little
spoiled little brat.
Yeah. Like, she was spoiled, but wow, for being one of my favorite shows, I fucking forgot her name. But
we forgot stuff on The Office too. So it is what it is. But yeah, no, I get you. Yeah.
But no, that's, so that was why with him, it was just like, he had this like natural, like you really thought that James Avery was probably like that in real life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I think it honestly kind of makes me think of Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World, was that they said it in a really interesting way, was that I think it was Will Friedle and Ryder Strong. They were being interviewed, and they said, what was your favorite Feeney advice? And they said, honestly, they're all good, but we didn't just learn from Feeney. Like, there was an actor underneath of that we worked with that was, in our opinion, way wiser than the character, and that we learned from every day. James Avery he was a guy that the camera just loved him.
Yeah.
And just no matter what he was doing, he had such a beautiful way of portraying Uncle Phil, is that he could be very, very, light. He's like, are you crank? Are you kidding me? Or whatever. Like, you're going to be wrapped up in so much litigation. Your grandchildren are going to need lawyers. Like, he had that intensity. And I think that him being, starting off, because wasn't it he was a lawyer and then became a judge?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, because I don't think I've ever watched the whole thing.
And the fact that he came from like a pig farm or something like that when he was younger, and that's what I mean. Like, you get a little bit of a backstory, and from what I remember, like, not that he grew up like in a shitty place, but I just don't think they had a lot of money and that they worked hard.
Yeah.
But then now he's a very successful judge and, you know, makes a lot of money and lives in a nice neighborhood. But again, he still has those roots in him like that. And that's what I liked about it.
So, okay, I actually have a side question to everything.
Okay.
What's your favorite what's your favorite Dr. Phil moment? What's your favorite Uncle Phil moment?
It's going to have to be between the scene with him and Will.
Sure. Yes. Yeah.
That, or it's probably when, is it when, oh, fuck, when they're having the pool party and they go, yeah.
Yo, Dad, you popped my duck.
Yeah. And they're trying to like, it's like, I think they're trying to reminisce of what happened, like all three stories. I think all of those, because one, he's like super sweet. One is the truth. And one, he's this giant monster. Like
Hillary, that's her name.
God
Hillary.
damn it.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Sorry. I had to look it up. It was bothering me.
I was
Hillary.
going through the ABCs in my head when I wasn't talking, trying to get her name.
No, it's, oh my God. Yeah. Cause
Fuck me.
Dude, the entire, like, I remember watching that as a kid and just howling with laughter because it's the one time that we've ever seen Carlton stand up to his father.
Yeah, and it's not real.
You popped my duck. And he's just like,
oh, I'm sorry. Like,
I didn't mean to. If you guys could just keep it down just a little bit, that'd be great. Like,
or that, or when he, gets the British accent when one of his friends or somebody comes over that's British and he responds to him in the British accent constantly. And
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh God, you have to watch. Okay. We'll watch that. We'll watch that clip afterwards. But yeah, it's a good one. Yeah.
Hell yeah. My absolute favorite moment. I was half awake when I watched it and I was probably, I don't know, maybe 7 or something. And it was when the cricket was in the house.
Oh, yeah.
And they couldn't find it. Like, they looked everywhere.
And he stepped on it.
The fact they're in the middle of an argument, he walks up the step and, I killed the cricket. Like, just, it was, we are talking, I needed oxygen laugh. Like, I was kind of half awake, and then I realized what happened, and it was one of those, like, and just belly laughing at that point. Like, I love comedy like that, where they implement something that you're probably going to forget about because it becomes ambient. And then you realize later in the middle of an argument, now the story has changed. Now we're back to that and it's resolved. And it's like completely on accident.
Or the fact of, I forget what episode it was, but I think somebody woke him up. Was it Vivian or was it somebody? But he was like, damn it, Vivian, get off me. I'm not a machine.
Oh yeah. It's when they were in the cave together. It was him, Carlton, and Will. Yeah. Just, oh my God. It was, oh man. I remember just, James Avery, just his portrayal was great. I'm wow, Uncle Phil. That's not what I would have pegged. Like that's such a good choice.
Like I said, it was awesome. Just the fact of what drew me to him in the first place, of just like always remembering him and seeing him in the show, even as as a teenager and kid. But
yeah,
that's, I don't know. Like I said, for one of them, I threw him in there. I thought that was a good one because it is somebody that, like, I quote, aspire to be, like, who doesn't want to be successful and take care of their family and make sure that they have everything.
Yeah.
And then also remember where you came from and stay humble.
Yeah.
And then take that dad role because you're stepping up and being a man and doing that. So I think there was a lot to respect about him.
You know, it's funny because even in the episode where with the whole why don't he want me, that whole thing, when Will's dad looks at Uncle Phil and says, I'm sorry, I was scared, and Phil looks at him, he's like, so was I. He's like, the difference is I didn't disappear.
Right. And look what he did.
Yes. And it's just that moment right there where it's like, that wasn't Uncle Phil gloating. That was him being like, no, you dumbass, you didn't have to run. You chose to run.
Exactly.
And it's just, I don't think that there's a moment in television that has, I wouldn't say hit me the hardest, but has hit me like that episode did.
Oh yeah.
We both have, deep emotional feelings in that area of our lives for very different reasons. And I think that when a sitcom does that and when it has the ability to hit you that way, it's it's proof that they do know what they're doing. It's not just a throwaway show that they're, getting their money every week. It's like there is thought to this. There is something that's happening.
The other one that I almost chose was Dan Connor.
Oh, dude.
Just like the struggle is real, but like he makes it, and like he was just a real motherfucker. Yeah. Like, so yeah. One of my favorite ones was when they're fighting and they're throwing stuff out and they're throwing things around. Like at one point he like picks the couch up and throws it out the front door, and they're both sitting there like, and he goes, get in the bedroom, and they both go there. Yeah, that was about to be the best fuck ever.
Well, shifting gears, just because of the, it's funny, because of the subject matter. Flower Dracon, leading into my second one, which I think that with time, this is probably, we'll do our last, or I'll do this last one, and then we'll let it take us wherever we go. Flower Dracon wants to know, Kyle, I would love to know if you have had any leader in your church that in life that you look up to. If so, what was it about that person that got you? And it was creepy that I made my second choice well before I had ever put anything on Discord. And it's a buddy of mine that I've not talked to in a long time, but I've mentioned him before, I think on one channel or another here and there, but JP.
Okay.
JP is the guy that made me understand it, because it's funny, Brian and I just talked about this last night, but he was what a Christian rock star adult should be.
Sure. Okay.
And I remember meeting him and not really understanding, okay, like what do you do here? Like, I was so new, so I didn't know like what role that he played, and come to find out that he was actually an ordained pastor, and like he, had worked at the church that we grew up in. One of the sister churches that they had planted.
Yeah.
So like we had connections where I was like, oh my God, this person, so-and-so. And like, okay, awesome. And the small amount of time that I was involved in ministry, I got to work exclusively with him and our head pastor, Adam. And JP, while I owe both of those guys a lot of things, JP was the only, I think, true gray person I had in my life. When I would come to him and I would ask him questions about things, or when I would be struggling with something, or if we were just geeking out about something, he was a guy that understood what it meant to be human. He never lost that. When I was deep and struggling with something, he would just be like, look, dude, I get what's going on. He's like, if I were you, I'd be angry too. And like, instead of just being like, hey, this verse says you shouldn't be angry, don't. It was, there was a connection that always happened there. And, I've traveled with him. I've done ministry with him. I've played music with him. I've, had some of the toughest conversations. I've laughed with him. I've cried with him. JP is somebody that made me realize that you can do with your life whatever you want.
Okay.
He was active in every church that he was ever a part of. I can't remember if it was he owned his own cigar business or if he either partnered with somebody, but he's an avid cigar smoker. Like he loves, a good like humidor that's full. Like I think like the last time I went to his house when he was living around here, he had a whole humidor in his basement, and it was just like, oh my gosh, like this is cool. Like, like what other executive pastor like you can come over, have a cigar with, and talk about your life.
Right.
And what really got me about him was just the fact that he was bold. There were so many moments that when things would happen was that he knew how to talk to people and confront people without making them, again, like Uncle Rex, like making them feel small. He did it in a way of, look, dude, I'm really disappointed in you. I am, but I get it.
Right.
I understand. It's a, this is a, this particular thing that I would be going through or something. He'd be like, yeah, man, it's an enemy that I know all too well. And I fight this on a daily basis. And I never lost sight of the fact that my leader was a person too.
Mm-hmm.
it was just, there was something so compelling about him, and knowing that, you know, he had his pull in the music industry, like working for Pearl Drum Heads, and like I think he even did stuff with like Alice Cooper, like he was a drum tech, and I remember asking him, I was like, so I'm like, you know Alice? He's like, no. He's like, I worked for Alice.
Yeah,
you know, so I think that he said the only time he referred to him by name was when he said, where's my old drum tech? so I don't know, but it's That's just funny. It was weird to have that dynamic with him, and the hero part of him is, I realize that not all heroes need to use rough words, violence, or intimidation or things like that to take control of a situation. And there was a period of time that him and I, you know, were hanging out quite a bit, you know, because like we kind of crossed paths enough at the church whenever I was doing things. I did video for them. And we had to go to somebody's house to help them with something. And one of the people there was severely confrontational. Like things could possibly get physical.
That's
good. We pulled up to the house, and I looked at him and I'm like, are you ready? He's like, I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be. And he's like, just follow my lead. He's like, there's nothing to be afraid of here. He's like, number one, I will protect you if anything should happen. We weren't necessarily worried that there could be damage. It was more so the idea of like, we just didn't want involved in that kind of a thing. Even though we needed to be there for the reasons that we were there. And I remember the person that we thought was going to be an issue just broke down and just started crying. And JP looked at them and was like, are you okay? What's wrong? And they're like, I know you hate me. I know you. It's like, you know what I've done. You know all this. And he walked over to them, put his hand on their shoulder and said, I am commanded to love, not to condemn. I'm commanded to look for the best in everybody, no matter what their track record is, because I was forgiven when I didn't deserve it. Why would I treat you any different? And from that point on, the entire situation, all the smoke got pushed out of the room. Like, you know, and it was just like, whoa, like, it's like things are okay. Like the situation didn't escalate. It didn't do this. Like, it was that moment of seeing that, you know, wow, like love does, it does a lot. Like it conquers all. It does this. It's like when you introduce confrontation, that's when you have problems. Yeah. And JP was just somebody that, you know, it's like, man, like, although I've not been able to speak to him, you know, face to face or anything, you know, in the past, like however many years, but that man, he made an impression on me. And I think that everybody that did ministry with him and did life with him in general, I think that's, you know, I think they have a lasting impression too. Like he's left a mark that will not go away, and I wear it with pride. And he's somebody that I severely look up to.
Yeah,
a lot.
That's that's good. I mean, that's what they should be. Like they should impact you that way.
Yeah,
you know, as far as like somebody that you're trying to follow in their footsteps or do the same thing in the future when you were trying to, be a youth pastor or be in the ministry and stuff like that. So that's good. That's what it's all about, man. So just because you haven't seen them face to face in several years doesn't mean you still don't look up to that person, or you still don't, are like friends with them. Like, yeah, it happens, man. It happens.
Let's shift gears to bring this into a nice smooth landing. The casino guy, and in parentheses, he has hip hop head, so you would relate. He asked, what would make a person lose hero status for you? If there's anything that would, basically be like, nah, not anymore. I don't look up to you or whatever. Yeah. So what do you got?
It's going to fall back into that category of that selflessness and like, not caring or not want when you're now pompous about it. Mm-hmm. Like that's one of the biggest reasons I don't like LeBron James. Mm-hmm. He calls himself the king. He gave himself half of his fucking stupid names. Michael Jordan never gave himself the greatest of all time, the this and that, the best player to live. No. He was deemed that. He doesn't call him, and he stated before, he's like, what about the people before me? Why am I? Like, I know that Michael Jordan has a lot against him as well as like kind of being like a pompous asshole in private.
See, I still need to watch that series that they did, or was it the movie, or like where it went into how they trained. But I've heard good things. But
it's just the fact of, I know that there are still bad things about him, or things that, you know, he just didn't let in the public eye. But that was because he also knew that he had to kind of be, you know, that public figure. But at the same time, you should have been doing that stuff. Anyways, what I'm saying is that he didn't give himself those names. He just lived up to it. And he also credited the other people, where it's like, why are you saying it's for me? Like, what about, you know, Hakeem Olajuwon and all these people, like, you know, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and like, he was rattling off all these people. He's like, people that I didn't even get to play with because they were before me. He's like, you know, so it's things like that. Like, he's very selfless when it comes to that. That was kind of the first I guess analogy I could come with, as far as like somebody to, like, if he were to come out and be like, I'm the greatest fucking basketball player. All right, Michael, whoa.
Yeah. It's like,
calm down. Yes, you might be. Like, you probably, you are, but now you're being a fucking douchebag about it.
Yeah.
I think that's where, like, you start losing cool points for me, to where it's like, well, nah, I don't want to be like Mike anymore.
Right.
Because who wants to, you know, to worship and idolize, which you're not supposed to do, but somebody that's being like that.
Yeah.
No, man, that's toxic. You want that positiveness about you. So that's what it would be, is if you just, now you know it and you just constantly say it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that where I lose respect for people is, and I'm careful on how I say this, is that like an easy target would be Kevin Spacey. You know, it's like where like an actor you've seen for years that, you know, and then something, it doesn't even have to be the nature of what he was going on with him, where it's like, bro, come on. Like, are you shitting me? Like, what, why? Why did you have to do this? It's seeing those stupid decisions. Now, that does not mean that just because somebody makes a stupid decision once, that I lose complete respect for them. I mean, my God, Robert Downey Jr. went harder into the paint than anybody else did, and came back out of it not covered with anything, and is as clean as can be. And it's just like, nah, dude, he's on top of the world doing what he's doing. Like, to me, it's your attitude. It's the idea of that. It's like, you know what, I can't control myself. I can't do. No. You 100% can take responsibility, get clean, or you know, stop being an ego addict, or stop, you know, being this or that. Like
an ego addict. There you go.
I've heard a couple of famous people talk about that. Like, I think it was John Mayer actually like talked about, like, you know, him recovering or getting out of like being an ego addict and being like, no, like, I had to make a lot of big changes and think about how, you know, the rest of my life is going to be. And you know, there's something to be said about that. You know, musicians, actors, politicians, like everybody like that, like they're playing on a level that we can't understand. And, you know, it's very easy for that to be a default, and to know that there are people alive now that resist and are still people. You know, it's like seeing the Keanu Reeves or seeing the Pedro Pascal, like, you know, whatever. Like, it's just, wow. Like, to me, I feel like there's just no excuse. And when I see somebody that is deliberately trying to push away, or is deliberately doing things that you're like, bro, this is just moralistically wrong. This is not good. Like, it's hard for me to enjoy certain movies or certain music knowing people's actions. But I'm also very good, I guess, at separating the art, where like I don't have the same reverence. I can't deny this is a good song, though.
Right.
So it's
I do the same thing. I know exactly what you mean. Where you're just like, God damn it, but it's so good, like, or whatever. But that's interesting, because I don't think everybody can do that. You know, they can't separate that to where it's like, oh, well, I really like this person, but like you said, but blah 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 came out in the news or something. But it's like, okay, well, you still like the song or the movie beforehand. So it's like, I'm not going to not like it, you know, still, but there is that part of it. But in the future, like, dude, come on. Why? Like, why would you do that?
There's no reason. Just, it's your life that bankrupt, like being on the level that you are, that you have to, I don't know. That's a whole different conversation. But tonight was a very interesting one. I just wanted to kind of open the doors a little bit. And that's the one thing that people have been saying, is that they want to know us more. They want to know how we think and what we do. And, you know, I think that getting to dive into this is something that will just help you guys peel back the layers a little bit and just know us a little bit more. So We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. And if you guys have been watching up to this point, thank you so very much. Make sure that you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell because YouTube's algorithm right now is awful. Make sure that you guys are checking things out. Comment what you would like us to talk about in the next episode and let us know what you liked about this one. Eric, give us a goodbye and do your thing.
Deuces.
Adios.